Hello strangers and story lovers, and welcome to my lair. In honor of October, I have indeed decided to embrace my inner demon more than usual. Also, I am a little bit sick, so apologies if I don't sound super jovial or if my voice is a little bit funny today. I am indeed recording while sick, which, commitment. Which is why I have my amazing new dragon mug, which makes me so happy. Tastes even better than in any other mug. Anyway, so this is my recap of what I've read in the month of September, which honestly wasn't a bad reading month. The majority of what I've read, I was just really enjoying it. It was super pleasant, so yeah, this is going to be a mostly positive video, I think. But just to contradict myself, I'll just start with the one that I liked the least, so that's out of the way, and then I can just focus on everything that was marvelous about this month's reading. So yes, let's not dilly-dally anymore, and let's start with the one that I didn't particularly like this month, which was Blackwater Sister by Zen Cho. I gave this book 2 stars because it left me a little bit disappointed. The idea is that we have this main character, Jessamine, who was, I think, born and raised in the US, but she has Malaysian origins. And because her family has, some bad luck over in the US, her father falls sick, and they can't really keep living there. They just move back to Malaysia with the rest of her family. And so she has to adjust, and it's very difficult for her, especially because she is a lesbian and her parents don't know that about her yet. And she's scared that the rest of her family is not going to accept it. And amidst her trying to navigate this new life and get a new job while still nurturing her relationship with her girlfriend, she starts becoming haunted by the ghost of her deceased grandmother, who then tries to make Jessamine do her biddings before she can rest forever. And so that's the premise, and amongst all that, Jess gets confronted by gods and demons and mafia, which sounds incredible if you ask me. So I was pretty hyped about reading this book. I thought it would be really fun. And at first when I started reading, I thought that the beginning was really slow to take up. Again, I was reading this book for the demon and the mafia. How cool does that sound? You get, mafia guys fighting demons and gods. That sounds amazing. I'm not gonna say that this book doesn't have that, but it doesn't have enough of that to my liking. It's really tame in that regard. It ends up, especially at the beginning, it ends up looking like it's gonna be heavy on the family drama, which, it's not that it's a bad thing, it's just really not my thing. I don't really care about family drama in general, especially the idea of having to live or carry or get rid of the weight of your family's expectations and things like this. I understand that there's a lot of value in these stories, it's just not the kind of stories I like, especially when I'm here to read about mafia and demons. So it took me a while to get into the book, because the beginning of the book is really more about the family situation, which again, not my thing. The aspect of the book that I did like, and that is very heavily present at the beginning, which is one of the reasons that I was just not absolutely bored, is there is a lot of presence of Malaysian culture, which I thought was really interesting. And that part of the story I really liked. It was just very pleasant, and for me kind of different, because I don't read that much about it, especially portrayed by someone who is of this culture, so I thought that was really cool and neat. But that doesn't change the fact that family drama is just not my thing, so I just really struggled to get into it at first. Then the story kind of picks up and it gets a bit more interesting, even though, again, I didn't think that it was leaning enough, in the way I like, into the whole demon versus mafia thing. But it did, and I was still getting a bit more into it. I was kind of getting more involved and liking the characters. So for a while I really thought that this would be a 3 stars for me, because I was like, okay, it takes some time to really start, but once it starts, it's still not exactly what I wanted, but it's nice, it's fun, and it's well written enough. And the characters were kind of enjoyable. But then there's the last part that I'm not gonna spoil, but just really felt like a letdown for me, because the characters that I liked and the characters that I didn't like ended up being like kind of not flipped, but I realized that the characters that I really didn't like and I thought were the bad guys were actually, I was supposed to feel kind of sorry for them, in a way that not just I'm supposed to be sorry for the bad guy, but they're not even the bad guys. And I was like, wait a minute, but it was so messed up what they've done though. Why am I supposed to suddenly root for them? And yeah, it just felt like nothing was called out on it. The main character, Jess, whom I liked at first, in the end she just really annoyed me. Again, I don't want to spoil, so I can't express exactly why I felt so annoyed with her, but to try and make it a bit like vague, she just does a 180 and starts really becoming charmed and protective of people who did some really messed up things, and being very forgiving of them while being very unforgiving of other people whom, I don't know, I felt did things that were not as bad, if that makes sense. So I don't know, I just felt like the whole morale of the story was just completely not for me, which is why at the end I just kind of ended up bumping it down to a 2. And yeah, I just had a very unpleasant experience with the end of the book, to the point that I was listening to it on an audiobook, and at some point I was just like, okay, I'm going to read this in faster, like twice as fast, because I wasn't enjoying it and I just wanted to finish it. Still, I didn't want to DNF it, because again, I'm a completionist. It's a bit of a toxic trait that I have. I really struggle to put a book down. I really want to finish it once I start. I need to learn to DNF books, but at some point I was just curious about this one as well. I was like, well, I'm nearly done, might as well finish it, and still it felt a bit too long. Not because it is actually long, it's not long, it just felt long to me at the end because I just wanted to be done with it. Again, just because of this kind of shift in how I'm supposed to perceive the characters that I just completely wasn't there for. So, again, I don't think it's a bad book, I just was really let down by the ending. Also, I felt like the love interest, very disappointing as well. She was so irrelevant that she might as well not have been there. Very, very weird, very disappointing as far as I'm concerned. Again, I really don't think it's a bad book, it's just really not the book I want to read. And yeah, overall the aspect that I enjoyed the most was seeing a bit more of the Malaysian culture. But yeah, so that's already it for Blackwater Sister. Next book. Next book was a novella, To Clutch a Razor by Veronica Roth, which is the sequel of When Among Crows by Veronica Roth, obviously. 5 stars. Loved this book. I already loved When Among Crows. I already gave it a 5 stars. Yeah, that's just my type of book. Again, I don't want to spoil When Among Crows either. So I'm gonna talk about like a bit what When Among Crows was about, because I think in my video, which was probably in May, I didn't really mention what the story and the plot were really about. So it's the story of this guy Dimitri, who's part of an order of demon monster hunters, which is already my type of thing. I love stories about monster hunters. And in this book, it's kind of focusing on Polish folklore, which is really cool. It's not something that I personally read a lot about, so it's kind of a treat to just see these different type of monsters that you can get in this folklore. Very cool. And what I like about this book is, well, first the characters, they're really nice. You have this monster hunter main character, Dimitri, who's just a very sweet guy who just wants to do his best. And you can tell that he's not really into hunting monsters, that he sees the humanity of them, which again, absolutely my type of things. I love a good, nice, friendly monster. Thank you very much. I'll have some more, thank you. And you have some amazing side characters. So you have this very badass chick who's Zorga, I think, and it's basically this type of monster that can create illusions but also eat people's fear, and she's really cool. I love her, she's amazing. And then you have another guy who's a Strigon, who is basically also a type of monster that they say is kind of akin to vampires, but not really, because they eat anger, I think, not blood. And they're very powerful, and they can turn into an animal, like an owlish kind of a creature. And basically they're both helping Dimitri in his attempt to try and find Baba Yaga to help him with a favor, although that favor we don't know exactly what it is. But also he's trying to help the Zorga girl to get rid of a curse that is slowly but surely killing her, and that has killed her family before. So yeah, it's really cool. The characters are amazing. You have some really nice action scenes and some really bizarrely gory scenes at some point. Like, I was literally cringing a few times while reading, both When Among Crows and To Clutch a Razor. I was just like, oh no, please don't do this. This is so gross. Which, you know, I'm a bit squeamish as a person, but I like a little bit of that here and there. It just kind of keeps you on your toes when you're reading a book. And I just feel like also it helps raising the stakes just a little bit when you see that your characters can go through some difficult things. I don't think you actually need to like act a character completely to raise the stakes. You can also just show that to your reader, look, this is what they could potentially go through. We don't want that, do we? And I think this book does that really, really well. One thing that I find absolutely fascinating about this book is that, as I said, it's a novella, so it's very short, but it doesn't feel like it's too short. It doesn't feel like it's not enough, which can happen sometimes in some shorter stories where you would absolutely want to spend more time with them. It's really difficult to find this right length, like this sweet spot that's just enough but doesn't start getting too much. And I think this book nails that, and it also nails the lore and the exposition, I think. It never felt like there was an exposition dump or that it was too much. Just like kind of giving you information about the lore of the book and how these creatures work and how their society work and things like this. It never feels too much, but it also never feels not enough. And it's always kind of portrayed in a nice and fun, interesting way. Like, for example, you have these Zorga, I hope it's the correct word, who are creatures that feed off of fear, who have this old cinema that they used to project horror movies, which, yeah, that's a good idea. That makes absolute sense. And then you have the Striga, who are creatures who feed off of anger, who have like an illegal fight club or something like this, which also brilliant idea, very, very fun, and has like some good scenes out of that. And you have a lot of explanations on these creatures, their powers, what they do, and how they kind of put themselves in this society. You have some exposition as well on this monster hunting order, which I think is called the Holy Order, and who have their own magic, and they have these bone swords that are made from basically their own bones that they can get out of their spine, which is very gross. But you have all of these explanations. You still have time for the characters to like develop bonds and friendships and things like this and be interesting in their own right. You have time for action in a very short book, which I think is really cool. And yeah, the author just completely nailed that as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, 5 stars. And I'm very surprised still every time I realize that the author is the person who writes Divergent. I haven't read Divergent, to be perfectly honest. I am very stupidly forging my opinion of the book off of the movies that I personally didn't like. Maybe the books are amazing, I don't know. I'm not that interested in reading them, even though I've loved When Among Crows, because to be fair, I also think like it's been years, maybe the author has improved, or maybe she was always really good in the first place and I'm just like a horribly judgmental person. I just don't really like the concept of Divergent in the first place, so I don't see the appeal of reading the books. But again, maybe the books were great and I'm just like unjustly forming my opinion of these books based off of the movies that I didn't like. But yeah, When a Monk Crows and To Clutch a Razor, excellent. I really liked it, both of them. And like I said, completely obsessed with how well the author has managed to do all of this in such a short amount of time. And yeah, honestly, just the concept of a monster hunter kind of befriending monsters and going on adventures with them. Yeah, absolutely my kind of things. Like, I'm literally writing a story on the same principle, so like, of course it's going to be my type of shit. I really hope there's going to be a third one, but I don't think it's been announced yet. Anyway, next book. Or should I say next books? Because next books are Blue Lily Lily Blue and The Raven King from the Raven Cycle saga from Stephanie Stiefvater, whose name I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. 5 stars. Both of them. For some reason, I've read the first 2 books of the saga, which are The Raven Boys and The Dream Thieves, and I gave them both a 4 stars. And when I was reading Blue Lily Lily Blue, for some reason something happened in my mind and I was just like, yeah, no, this is going to be a 5 stars. I can't give that any less. I was just having such a good time reading it, and I can't really explain what it is that made me give 4 stars to the first one and 5 to the last 2 ones. I think it might just be me falling in love more and more with the characters with every page. And the thing is, I really love the story, but I think I love the story less than I love the characters. And I also feel like from book 2 I started liking the story even more because of the whole dream aspect of it. Again, no spoilers, but the dream aspect is much more present in the next books, and that is probably part of what I liked even more about the story. And also, like I said, just the fact that I just kept falling more and more in love with the characters as I was reading. I'm not usually the type of person who will say, yes, I will absolutely have these characters just like do anything and just kind of fuck around and do nothing and I'll be happy. I prefer to see them like do things that are plot related. Like if you have too many scenes of characters doing nothing and just being themselves and having fun, at some point I'm gonna be like, well, you're kind of wasting my time now, aren't you? But with these characters, it's fine, just have them just go to brunch or ice skating or whatever it is. Like I could see them going around these woods for hours and I was just like, yes, don't interrupt us with plot, please. I just want to see these guys being themselves. I just love them. I think they're amazing, and I think there was just such creativity in some of the entities that are in this book and some of the magic and how it works. It just feels like a dreamlike experience, and it was so pleasant to stop work and just go read this book and just forget that the world outside of this book was a thing. I was just like, yes, I'm just going to hang out with these characters and see them doing their weird like magician things and just be friends and more than friends or whatever. I think it was in Blue Lily Lily Blue that there was a line that when I read it I was like, yes, that's exactly that. It was from Blue's perspective, who was talking to one of her cousins, and her cousin was referencing the fact that Blue was spending all of her time with these guys, the Raven Boys, and she was telling her like, oh, you've just completely fallen in love with these guys, haven't you? And Blue, like in her head, she's just like, well, the thing is not so much that she was falling in love with them as that they were all falling in love with each other. And I was just like, yes, exactly. They have such like cool dynamics, all of them. Like they all have their own special little character relationships and character dynamics, and you can see them all between each other, and it's just so cool. Like not 2 characters have the exact same relationship amongst each other. Like It's so cool. I don't know. For some reason, it made me so happy every time. Like, you can see two characters of the same group of, like, 5, and not two characters will have the exact same dynamic, and that was just so sweet. Which I know when I put it like this feels like such a normal thing, but I don't think it is, and that's the thing. So when I see it in a book where they all have such complex and interesting dynamics amongst themselves, yeah, it's just cool. And I will also say, although that happens a bit more, I think, in like book 1 and 2 and less so in book 3 and 4, but I still want to say that this saga has one of the best love triangles that I've ever seen. Like, I'm not a huge hater of love triangles, but I'm not a huge fan either, and most of the time when I see it, I'm just a bit like, oh, okay, a love triangle, here we go. But in this one, I thought that it was actually a really compelling one, even though, like I said, it's mostly like in the first 2 books, and you know what happens in the last 2 books, which, you know, I'm here for it. It's just... yeah, I don't want to get too much into it because I'm planning on having a video someday about love triangles, and specifically the one in this book, and why I think it's so freaking good. But I think, to make a long story short, I think it's just boiling down to none of the characters feeling like extra, and all of them feeling like important in their own rights. And that is just what I really liked about this book, is that it was not just about one person, one dynamic between 2 characters. They all felt important. I also felt like the writing was really pretty. There were just a few times when I was reading and I was just highlighting some passages and I was like, oh god, that is beautiful. I don't want to spoil, so I'm not gonna read it. I'm not going to go too much into it, but there is one scene when one character kisses another, and the line that is used to describe it, I'm pretty sure me saying that and people who have read this book, they will know exactly the line that I mean. It was just, I was reading and I was like, well, damn. That is the most gorgeous line I've ever read to someone describing the feeling of being kissed by someone they like. Chef's kiss. Amazing, beautiful, so well prepared. And yeah, there's just a lot of things like this, of just really beautiful sentences, beautiful things, beautiful writing style. I can't even begin to say. And the creativity of the magic and everything, like I said, amazing. It's also like a book that has some tropes that I don't usually like, and in this book, amazing. Like I said, love triangles, not usually my thing. In this whole saga, stunning. I loved it. I really felt like it was a plus, like a nice addition to the book. The bad boy. Need I say more? I personally am not a huge fan of bad boys. I stand corrected. Ronan Lynch, amazing character. They're all amazing characters, mind you, but I don't often find myself being this invested in the bad boy as the character. Like I said, Ronan Lynch has me corrected. Amazing character. Love him. Love all of these characters. They're all so precious. And the vibes are amazing. Can't compliment them enough. You know, I often say when I feel like I have a book that I've enjoyed, but I'm feeling a bit neutral towards, I'm often using the expression like it's not going to stay with me. I feel like these books are going to stay with me. Like, they're going to stay with me. I'm going to think about them a lot. I'm going to, like, yeah, obsess over it. I even bought the graphic novel. That's how much I love these books. And I've read it last month as well. I was just like, oh my god, this is beautiful. And I do have to say, I really love the art. It's really nice. And I felt like it really captured a lot of the emotions of the story as well. Like, there were a few times when I was reading and I was like, oh yes, this moment was so good, and it's also so good in this graphic novel. I do feel like sometimes the pace is not as good as in the books, and I don't know how I would understand some of the passages if I hadn't read the books. So I can't say if it's nice to read if you haven't read the books. I'm not sure if it's really that nice. But I don't care, I really loved it. Like, I loved every second of it. It was beautiful. That well tidy right now, so I guess I'll have to tidy that later. Luckily, I'm almost done, which is just as fine before I start drowning in my own snot. Sorry, that was not very ladylike of me. Anyway, yes, they are amazing books, and honestly, my biggest disappointment with this saga is that I did not read them as a teenager, because I feel like it would have probably changed my life, which, you know, is not so bad because I like my life as it is, but still, I really wish I had read them when I was younger, because I think it's a great saga for young people, for adults as well. Like, I mean, I'm a grown-up woman and I've enjoyed them immensely, but still, like, how different would be my appreciation for reading and things like this if I had read them sooner. I don't know, because I feel like it's the kind of books that can really change your perception of things. At least for me, it was like this. To each their own. I completely understand that some people will read it and they will not even bat an eyelid and be like, why is she rambling about these books? For me, I think it would have changed a lot when I was a kid, and yeah, I really love these books. I really do. I especially love the characters, but yeah. I should probably stop rambling about it. It's brilliant. It's very creative. It's very dreamlike. It's also very funny sometimes. Like, there were a few times where I caught myself chuckling. Like, not just smiling, you know, how you can just be like, oh, that was kind of funny. Like, I was actually chuckling because the characters are so funny that sometimes, like, they say funny things, but also sometimes they just do things that are so themselves that even though it's not funny in itself, you're just looking at it and you're just like, that's so Blue, or that's so Ronan, or that's so Gansey, and it's just like, it's beautiful. I love that, because it means that the characters are so fleshed out that sometimes they can just do something that is so intrinsically themselves that it becomes funny. Yeah, nothing else to say. It's just, I love it. Read these books if it feels like it's something that could be for you. You're probably going to have a good time. It can be a bit slow sometimes, so if you're a person who just prefers like constantly under pressure, constant action, it may not be for you. But if you can take something that reads a bit slower, yeah, jump on it. It's a very cool time. It's a very good time. Yeah, I'm probably going to read like the other saga that is like a sequel, a prequel. I'm not really sure, but I'm definitely going to read it. I just don't know it because I'm really behind on a lot of books that I wanted to read. I need to finish the Gideon, the 9th saga, and I have also some books from like book clubs that I need to read. So yeah, hopefully I can read those books very quickly because can't have enough of this universe. It is what it is. Anyway, I think that's it. Like I said, I need to really stop before I drown in my own snot. Yes, that was what I read in September. Very cool reading month. Oh god. Oh no, don't make me choose which book was the book of the month for me. How am I supposed to choose? Between Blue Lily, Lily Blue, The Raven King, and To Clutch a Razor, how am I supposed to choose which one is the best? Fuck. Oh, that's a tough one. No. Oh, God. I guess I'll say The Raven King, but I'm breaking my own heart with this one because I'm just like, yeah, but To Clutch a Razor, but Blue Lily, Lily Blue. Like, I'll still go for The Raven King. Oh god, I feel like I'm betraying the characters from To Clutch a Razor by saying this because I love them to the moon and back. I teared up a few times in this book as well. But yeah, no, I have to go for The Raven King, because I know the characters are going to stay with me forever in the part of my head and in the part of my heart. And I did tear up a few times as well, like, yeah, okay, it has to be The Raven King. But damn, oh no, To Clutch a Razor was so good as well. And like, I mean, I'm not that fussed about Blue Lily, Lily Blue because it's the same saga, so they're both winner at the end of the day. It's just that usually I would tend to go with like the big grand finale, although this is not necessarily like I love them all. Yeah, okay, let's go with The Raven King. See, this is hard. This is what it feels like when you have to pick your favorite book out of a bunch, and they're all so good. Why did I ever decide that picking a book of the month was a good idea? I do not know. But yeah, I think that's it for what I read in September. Hopefully I'll have some really good books to talk about as well in October. At least that's my hope. And on that note, I will love you and leave you before I combust into a puddle of snot. This is my life. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and continue to enjoy stories.